Yeah, hi Deepak. My name is Sagar, and today we are here for interview, for mock interview in the field of data engineering. So I hope we can start now.
Sure,
So please introduce yourself. What's your technology? What's your skills and how many years of experience you have it, or in which technology you have worked on it. So that we can
sure.
proceed.
Yes. So myself, Deepak. So I have total 2.5 years of experience in big data. So as per tech stack concern, like I'm currently working with Spark, AWS. At programming side, we are using Python, Scala. So like coming to my current project. So my current project is an ETL project where uh, there are OLTP systems which are dumping data into data lake, which is on S3. So once data is on S3 in data lake, so from there we are taking data into our ETL pipeline. So our ETL pipeline are there are multiple layers in our ETL pipeline. So starting with the first layer is staging layer. So like we take the data from the data lake and put it into the staging layer. Like for that we do some small transformations on the data. So the data are dumped from OLTP systems using glue jobs. So now what happens, like these small files are there, and like multiple tables file. Now we need to create a stage for our data so that we can process it further. So once the data is there in the data lake, we do some small transformations on the data, like if there are some nulls or those kinds of things, and we put it into the staging layer again, like dump it back to the S3, and have Hive table created on top of that. And then once the data is in transformation, sorry, in the staging layer, the next layer we call it as the transformation layer. So now here the major transformations that are there are involved with that data. So now we get like source target mapping sheet from the client side, on which we need to write the transformation logics, on which we will be loading data into the transformation layer. So these the tables in the transformation layer are like fact and dimension kind of tables. Like so the dimension tables are the data load is very slow, like they grows very slowly,
Hmm.
but the fact tables, they grow daily, like million, like 6 to 7 million records, like that they keep on growing. So once the data is in the staging layer, then for that, like we need to totally build a ETL pipeline, like so that to pull the data from staging layer into the transformation layer. So there on the basis of the STM we write the Spark jobs, and like in Scala. Then again use EMR to process it. Then again we create Hive tables to have a for metadata storing and those kinds of things, and we use Athena to do some queries on top of that data. Then once the data is in transformation layer, then the client has some kind of third party to which the client has to be compliant with. So on that data we need to generate reports and those kinds of extracts on top of that data. Those extracts are kind of in CSV files and Excel files, those kinds of things we need to generate on daily or monthly basis. So those things are done from the transformation layer. And there's another layer that we call as a serving layer. Like on there, like they have their own data science team that is using that serving layer in the third layer in the ETL pipeline. So the tables over there are aggregate tables in the total warehouse. So there we, on the premium transaction or on the loss transaction, these kinds of things, we need to aggregate the amount, like what's the premium amount, what's the loss amount. Those kinds of things we need to build on the basis source system where we are getting data from. So those things we do, and that module is in Python. So there we code in PySpark kind of like way, like since the data science
Hmm.
team is also using it. So that total module is on PySpark. So again, like we need to do that, and those jobs are normally monthly jobs. What the total end of the month, what's the total aggregate of different things that is
Okay.
there. For orchestration we use Apache Uzi to orchestrate our whole pipeline. So yeah, currently I'm involved in this. So day-to-day activities are like writing these logics and all those kinds of things to build our ETL pipeline and have analysis on the data to have the things in an efficient manner. Yeah.
Okay,
So these things
so
I've done.
yeah, that's good, Deepak. But sorry, I did not work on AWS. I know Azure, but yeah, we'll ask. We will continue. So yeah, I have
Sure.
one doubt in it. You mentioned that you are getting data, from a data warehouse. So is it a incremental load or full load?
So it's suppose we started building from a source, from a source we are getting data. So once we do like start the ETL pipeline, like while the first time, so there will be a history load involved where
Hmm.
we will be
Yes.
loading the entire data dashboard that was there in the, yeah. So there we will do a history load, and once we have the entire history loaded, then after that we will be loading incremental data. So which will, like, for that we have another table approach. Like, we create a table that we call as a stats table, where like we store the point till which the data was loaded. So the last entry we store, like
Hmm. Okay,
last date
okay.
till which the data was stored.
Logging
So,
table or audit
so
table.
then again
Okay.
we query that table. Yeah, 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 yeah. Audit table.
So in first time when you loaded history data, is it a manual work or you did some automation?
Yeah, so we build that Uzi flow, right? Like in the first flow, so we trigger that Uzi flow for the first time. So it will automatically, from staging till transformation, it will load the data. And sometimes like manual effort is also required because the data size is huge, and like the jobs that we have built will not be able to handle that much amount of data. So we manually create scripts to just repartition and those kinds of things we
Hmm.
do, like to have the entire history loaded. So sometimes, like, if there are any like fact tables involved, like the data size are getting huge, so that kind of, like, those times we need to have a manual effort put in, and then we try to load the data. So like we try to load the data in batches, like 5 years of data at one go, then 5 years, next 5 years, like that way
Yeah, yes,
to
yes,
load
yes.
the entire.
Got it. Got it. Got it. So you worked on Apache Spark, right? Spark, you using
Yes,
Spark Scala?
yeah, Spark with Scala. Mostly, I'm using Spark with Scala, but Python, PySpark also in the third module, serving module. We need to use PySpark. So
So,
yeah,
so
both I have experience in.
yeah, that's good. So, so Deepak, did you create any automation framework or any utility for your project? Kind of testing framework,
Automation.
kind of any framework have you created for your project?
No. So not, I'll say, as a framework, like a testing framework I haven't created, but like the framework. Yeah. So you're saying that so that we just need to plug in the things and it will
Hmm, 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 hmm.
automatically. Yeah. So we have a reconciliation, kind of a like check between the source and target if everything is matching or not.
Yeah.
So like suppose there are separate things for those four like jobs, so it will be kind of a like 4 times trigger and they'll run. So what we have done, we created a reconciliation framework kind of way, where we just plug in the query, source and target query, for each of the loads. Like, so on the basis source we just need to plug in the query, and it will on the same code base, all the source can be reconciliated, like that we have created a framework. Like if you call that, yeah, then I have created that. Yeah. So
Okay, okay, that's
that I have
good.
worked on mostly. Like then, yeah, yeah, mostly we need to just create the jobs and then schedule it using Uzi. So yeah, so that workflows are there. So yeah, so like
Okay, okay.
this task I worked.
Yeah, that's good. Good to hear. So, Deepak, I'll ask one more question. I don't know about the Uzi or the ETL tool which you have worked on it, but
Sure.
did you work on scheduled triggers or any different kind of triggers? Have you used it? Basically, like we have different
No,
kind
I
of
haven't.
triggers, to schedule the jobs, to schedule the ETL jobs.
Okay.
So
Okay,
which
so
which
here
type of
like
trigger?
mostly
Yeah,
things are batch processing.
batch
Yeah,
processing.
mostly
Okay.
things are batch processing. Yeah, so what we do is, like in the Uzi we have the option to have a time on which the schedule will be automatically triggered. So we in the scheduler, like there's a like scheduler files are there in Uzi. So over there, like we just need to give the time, so
Yes.
at that
Okay.
time that automatically will be triggered. Yeah, those
but
workflows
the,
will be triggered.
but there is a scenario that I want to run my ETL job whenever the file arrives in the location. Suppose we
Okay,
have a
okay.
S3 location. Whenever the
Yeah,
file comes, we have to trigger the ETL. How would you do that?
yeah. Yeah, so for that we have done once. So what
Hmm.
happened, like so there was a source, like we had to process the data monthly, but
Hmm.
source, like what was happening is, like normally the file for 31st or 30th will come on first. So
Hmm.
but this source was delaying it to second, and if we don't know like on what time on second the file will be available. So either we can have a third, like on the third we can process the file, or we can have something crawler kind of a thing which will process the file once the file will available.
Hmm.
So we went ahead with the second approach, like once the file is available. So what we were doing is that on second, so we knew after this time the file can arrive. So what we did is we build a kind of a job like where it will just keep on checking the source for 5-10 minutes, and like suppose there's a load that happened till last month. So in a file we maintain the count, like what was the count of data that was loaded. So now when the job will check, it will find like what is the count. So if the count is matching with the current count, so data has not arrived. So like that we kept on
Yeah.
checking 5 minutes, 10 minutes, like that.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Yeah, yeah. If
But
the
there
count increase at the source, and then we trigger the job, the
but there
zero upload,
but there
like
can
that
be
we
a
have done.
but there can be a scenario that the count will not change. Maybe it is if it has dimension table. Maybe I'm just giving a thought. Then how would
Yeah, so
you
like
can't
yeah,
can't
this
we
approach worked for us.
no, actually I'm just asking you, can't we use a metadata property if we can use it there? Check the last day updated date of that file, or so
Mhm.
table whatsoever.
Yeah,
I
those
mean,
kinds of things
actually,
we
I
can
did
have.
not work on that tool,
Yeah,
so I'm not sure. But
yeah.
in different tool, we also handle this such scenarios to handle the to check the
Mhm.
metadata, because we
Okay.
uh, uh, keep on checking on the data side. So you have some resource, right? You have to use some resources, maybe a cluster or something like that.
Mhm.
Then again, so every time you have to first first on the cluster and check the count, and then shut down the
Uh-huh.
cluster. So I don't think so it's it's a good process, right? I mean,
Okay,
just
so like no, so we have AWS this one. So like we have on-demand clusters, so they are continuously running. Like it's not like there's any
okay,
thing like
okay.
we need to shut down and turn.
Oh, on
So
demand,
it's
yeah,
always
then.
running. So it scales. Yeah, it scales up. Like the client is very rich.
Yeah,
They have
then
like
yeah, then
they have
that's not
given
a
like,
problem.
yeah. So like the clusters are always running. It's not like they'll stop.
Yeah, because
So
like
like we
we
can
use our
schedule as
job
many.
cluster
It
only.
auto scales up.
We use job
Yeah.
clusters in our project. So whenever it's required, it's up, and then after that down. Okay, so Deepak, have you worked
Okay.
on deck size or reporting side? No, only backend you have
Tag
worked on it.
size. No.
DAX measures,
Yeah.
tabular model. Have you worked on it? No.
No, I haven't.
Okay. So can you
Mm,
please share your screen? I'll give some questions. We'll see.
sure. Yeah. Screen visible.
Yes, visible. Please open Notepad.
Sure. Yeah.
Write a simple program to find out whether number is palindrome or not in Python.
Number is number is palindrome or not?
Hmm.
Okay. So like it's a number kind of a thing like this,
Huh.
and 1 to 1. Then okay. So for this, like I can have just like while
And
kind of
yeah,
a thing.
and don't use predefined functions.
Okay. So n, like suppose it's 1 to 1, so I can have while n greater than 0. So I have a new number constructed. So on
You divide by
like
10. You
so
divide by 10, and then you
yeah,
keep
yeah,
on going on. Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So like
So yeah, I
yeah,
got your approach. I got your approach.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So this I
so see,
this is easy
like
one.
we
Yeah,
have this number. Can't you make it a string and then using
yeah. I can
slice?
do that as well. Yeah,
Please do that.
yeah. So number equals to str. Number equals to str of this.
Hmm.
So then I can just check like the number is equals to this uh, L2 like equals to str of this, and then I can just reverse it.
No, so as I
Sort.
mentioned, don't. Yeah, as I mentioned, don't use predefined function. Use
Okay,
your
okay, okay, okay.
use a
Then yeah, okay,
iteration.
okay, sure. So I can just have like I pointing to
Hmm.
len of the main str
Yeah.
and j pointing to len of uh, l. So while I can have like or just simply I can just do this no like for loop till middle for I in
Till middle. Okay. Got it.
0 to
Got it,
yeah
Deepak. Got it.
of
You're right.
yeah.
You're right.
Okay.
I just wanted to see, the length of the loop, whether you will go till the end or till the middle of the.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so just write a SQL query. I hope you are good in SQL. So,
Yeah, I
uh,
will rate 3.5 out of 5.
okay, yeah. So write a SQL query
3.5.
to delete duplicate records in a table. For an example, we have a table called table A, okay, and which has ID and name
Mhm.
column, and ID is one sagar to Deepak, okay. Now we need to find out the duplicate entries and delete those duplicate entries. So the output will be
Mhm.
one Deepak, two Sagar.
So okay. Yeah. Sorry, I missed up. Yeah. So it will be like. So I just need to group by on this. Like
Mm-hmm.
select count star, count star, comma, ID, comma name from table group by ID name having count star greater than one. Yeah. So I'll get the records, then I can delete it.
Using
Hello.
delete star from table. You just printing.
So like delete operation as well. Like
Yeah,
so this will print no like whichever the record. Yeah.
yeah. So I want to delete the records from this table one.
Okay. So okay. So delete like the most of the times like in Hive and all we don't have delete,
Okay,
so we can
that's
just
not a problem.
use
Yeah,
use
yeah.
a temp table approach to
Hmm, 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 hmm. Not a problem, not a problem.
delete operation. Like mostly select queries I've worked with, like
Huh,
update delete I haven't.
yeah, I understood. In Hive or Spark, we don't delete, we use
Yeah.
delete. Okay, we directly
Yeah.
drop the tables, or we just create
Yes.
a new table on top of it.
Temp table. Yeah.
Huh. Okay,
Yeah.
fine, fine. Okay, chalega. Okay, so for an example, we have one table for this table one. Okay, it has a schema, ID, and name. That's the same table you can consider. I have to
Sure.
create a new table same as the table 1 without having
Hmm.
data. So
Without having data.
only schema will be like the id, the schema is id integer and name is string, no? So I have to create a new table
Hmm.
on top of the table 1, but without having a data.
Okay. So in Hive you can have create table like
Hmm.
create table table one new table uh, table one like something like that.
Hmm.
This we can use. I think, and partition by also we need to give here. Then it will create the table
Yes, yes, yes.
like table one.
But it will load the data also, right? Only
I
ddl will be
think it
there.
will not load.
No.
It will load data. Okay.
No, I'm also
So
not sure. I'm
mostly
just
we have a
asking.
manual effort here. No, it will not load data. That I can like 70% sure. Like it will not load 70 80%.
Okay, I will also check
Because it's
after
just
this
creating
call.
a table. Like it's a
Yeah.
create table. So it's not inserting on anything. So just create table. So it's
So
fine.
so
So
but
just create the table.
but if we write like this, create table new, select star from table, it will load the data, correct?
Yeah, yeah, correct. If we create table, then select star, then it
CTS,
will
yes.
load the data.
But like
Yeah,
I'm also not sure. Maybe you are saying, yeah, maybe you're right. We will check it after this call. I also
sure, sure.
got to learn something new. Okay, so now just give a simple query to print a number from 1 to 10 in SQL.
Okay, like it's
Just 1
to
to 10
print from
numbers.
1 to 10, like
Yeah, one, two, three,
kind
four,
of a
five.
loop.
Hmm.
Okay, so for this, like I haven't like we can use CT. I think
Yeah, city we can use.
CT, like something like select id or like one like this type of queries, like then we have to use union and then just plus one of that is there, that
Right,
kind of a
right.
thing we
You're
need to
right.
do.
You're right. You're right. Okay, that's you. If you, like, we don't know syntax, but you know the logic. It's good. Everything
Yeah.
we, we cannot learn, no. So yeah, that's not a
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
So have you worked on Apache Spark? No.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So just tell me the difference between Parquet and Avro.
Yeah, so Parquet is a columnar format and Avro is a row format.
Hmm.
So like so the data will be stored in a Avro file in a row manner. Like the rows will be stored together, but in a Parquet file, the columns will be stored together. So like if we have a landing zone of a suppose of a ETL pipeline, so there like we can have a like Avro there, because like after that we need to take multiple columns from there. But suppose for analytical kind of a thing, we need to have Parquet in place, because there will be using directly the like mostly the columns to do some analytical operations or anything. So there we can have Parquet. So Parquet has like multiple um, like what to say compression techniques as well, like snappy and all those things. And it
Yes, yes.
yeah, so to optimize like the query time and all, it also internally uses hash tables as well. Like if suppose the id is repeating multiple times, so it will just store the count in that particular block that we call as, like I forgot, like there's block inside also, no, in Parquet files. So in that like it will
Metadata we
store
have it.
that. Sorry.
Footer
Yeah,
block.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, so there it will store the max values, mean values, like that and
Metadata kind of
try
thing
to
it
optimize the
store.
queries. Yes, yes, yes. And for nested data as well, like it will be better to use Parquet format.
Okay. So if I want to join two tables, okay, in Apache
Mhm,
Spark, one table having a large volume and second table has very less data, less volume. For an example,
yeah,
a table one or data frame one has millions of records, and the second table
mhm,
has around 20 records or 10 records.
mhm,
Then how would you
yeah.
join? You just need to do
So he,
inner join.
yeah, so in this case, like since the small table, there's a small table involved, so like we can have a broadcast join here. Like for the small table, we can broadcast it to all the executors, so we can just set up the threshold, broadcast threshold for that particular table, like that particular task, that particular program, using the Spark configurations. Then
Hmm.
what will happen, the driver will take that particular table and like combine all the partitions, then it will just broadcast it to all the executors. So after that the join will happen, so it will be not, it will be kind of a map side join in Hive. Like it will be happening on the executor end, so there will be no shuffling of data involved. So that case, like it will be more like kind of a uh, very optimized operation. So broadcast join you can use here.
Okay. Okay. So you have used broadcast join. Do we have any other
Yes,
approach to make this optimize?
there's a one small table and one is big table, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
uh,
I know broadcast is a good approach, but is there any other
uh
approach also?
any other approach other than broadcast join? Mm,
Repartition, sorting, those kind of things.
yeah,
If you
repartition. Yeah, we can repartition the big data, the big
big
table
table.
first, like so that, yeah, so after that is repartitioned, so multiple executors can come into picture. So like since Spark works on the partition, so yeah, so we can repartition the data as well as we can have the broadcast joins together, so as to increase
Mm-hmm.
the.
Yeah. So now, but now we have a adaptive query execution, AQE. Have you heard about it
Okay.
in
No,
Spark
no.
3? Okay, that's also a
It's
optimized way. Okay. Yeah, that's good. I'll ask some more question. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hmm. Which question I ask you? Do you know heap table?
heap table. No.
No. Okay, not a problem.
These things I
Okay,
need.
okay. I just give one more SQL query. Okay.
Sure,
So
sure.
yeah, so we have a ID column, name, manager name. Just give some names. One one A, ABC.
One A and like
You can give B,
something like
C, yeah, whatever. ID two, C, D, and three. You can give A.
sure.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. That's not a question. I don't remember the question. Okay, we will ask another question. We have a ID,
Mhm.
student name, and the age. Student name, or you can write age, or you can write the class name, standard name, one, second, third, and the name
Okay,
of the
so
student.
okay here.
ID, student
So
name, and the
here like it should
class name.
ID student name. Okay, class name.
Department or whatsoever. Department. Okay. Now we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 records, and in the student name we have a name of the student. Age, we have a some is age, and then in class name we have a IT department, CSE, ECE, those kind of. Okay. Now
Mhm.
what you want to do? Uh, you want to find out the count of the student. Okay, based on each department, and you have to store it in some external layer, either it is S3 or data lake. you know
Okay, so I need to just count the student in each department, right?
each department, and which are having greater than 14 age.
So I will just the example I can.
You can make example.
So you have like it should be like output should be
Output should be hmm, one. So Deepak, make first row, age is 13. अच्छा चलेगा, ओके, नीचे आपने लिखा था, ओके. Okay, make it 14 only.
yeah.
So the output will be IT का age 2, IT 2, and CSE 1.
Okay, I need to have all the people who are greater than 14. So where age should be greater than 14. So I need to count like how many people are there. So I can just use group by class name in each department. So as like it will count, it will take like first row it will be 14 like so it will count. It will take this row,
Hmm.
then it will have the count. So I need to have class name first. So I just put it here.
That's good. That's correct. I understand.
Yeah. So next thing we have to do is like write it somewhere. Hello.
Yeah. Now you have to store it in a external layer, data lake or S3 in AWS.
Write dot something like format, I
And
believe.
class name
Yeah.
wise, class name wise you have to store.
Class name wise.
So for an example, if there is a IT, right? So in IT we have all the records. Okay, in CSE we have all the. So if I want to query in a future for only the IT pupils, I will get the records only for IT, not the CSE pupils.
Okay, so like where queries we can use over there, like uh, so I can have like this will if I'm storing in Parquet file or something like that, or if there is a table already created, then I can just use insert into table. Uh,
No, you
so
have to
it
you
should
have
be
to you have to store it in data lake layer,
file
in a file
in a
format.
file, right?
Yeah, file, not
Okay,
a table.
so it should be like I can use I think 2df will work here. The column name I can give. Don't know this part like schema is required here.
Mm-hmm.
So here, yeah, and the count or something like of the name of the that. So then I can write it back. Um, I can
Format
have the
packet.
format.
Okay.
Yeah, then I can use the save mode or
Save, yes, correct. Save to the location.
like
Mode append or that thing.
yeah. Then
Mm-hmm.
option like save mode.
Yeah, got you.
Then option path.
Yeah.
The path then dot load or dot save. I think.
Would you use partition by method here?
Yeah, we can use partition by. Write dot format dot partition by.
Hmm. Okay.
Partition by or repartition. Should be partition by.
Why not repartition?
Yeah, it should be repartition. I think in
No,
whatever.
see, like I want to store my data folder wise. IT
Okay.
has a different folder,
Okay.
CSE has a different folder, so that whenever a user comes, if he wants to
Uh,
see only the IT students data, it will go directly to that
mhm.
folder, not the entire data set.
Okay. Here, I think we can have class name. It will partition the data on basis class name. I think column if we give here
Okay, I guess you have to use partition by.
partition by. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think yeah.
yeah. Approach your approach is correct. I just wanted to see these things. Yeah, cool. That's not a problem. Okay, Deepak,
Mm.
tell me the difference between accumulator and broadcast.
Yeah, so accumulators are variables that are stored at the driver end, and broadcast is like the case we discussed about that table. So, like broadcast will be the variable will be a copy of it will be stored at all the executors and compiled by the driver and sent to executors. And like the executors can't change it; just there will be a copy of it stored over there. But accumulators so like suppose we have a kind of a thing where we need to like update the counts of something like on which
Hmm.
the executor are working on, and they need to increment the count on a certain basis. So in that case we can have accumulator variable at the driver end, and all the executors working on the data set can if they are finding something like if a number is even counted the file, so we can have a like increment the accumulator variable, so that's to count the number of even numbers in the
So
total file set.
we can
So in that,
update the variable value at runtime using accumulator, right?
yes, yes,
But in
yeah,
broadcast we cannot. It just read
yeah,
the variable.
read only, yeah, exactly, yeah,
Okay. So you mentioned in your resume that you have loaded handled 500 plus GB of data in
yes,
migration transformation. So how would you do
yes.
that? No, I mean, so what challenges have you faced?
Yeah, so when we were doing that task, like loading tasks, so multiple times we were encountering out of memory issues and all. So we at that time, like I was at a very junior level, so most of
Ah,
the things
yeah.
were handled by yeah the main leads who were there. Like yeah, so mostly things were like when we were doing the loads, like it was taking some time, and those kinds of things we are encountering. And then we there I think like we what we have done at that time, like we repartition the data, then again try to cache it, then one time, yeah. So I think we also use for one state there was kind of a skewness that was happening, so there we used salting. So like what was happening, like it was it was like a Australian project, so like Australian bank project. So there was one Australian state, I think it was Sydney or someplace, like it was just skewness was happening in some joints. So like we made Sydney 1, Sydney 2, Sydney 3, like that, a concatenation, then had the join, then store the result, then after that just make Sydney 1, Sydney 2 back to Sydney, like that we have done. So those
Okay.
kinds of things we did.
Actually, I wanted to know this because I know if we deal with huge data, we'll get out of memory issue. So I just wanted to know how did you handle this? Because
Okay, so
we face
yeah,
this kind of issue in Hadoop, and it's very difficult to handle it.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So like these things only, I think salting and all we can use, bucketing, salting techniques to
Yeah,
handle
yeah.
this.
It depends on the data also, how
Yes,
type of
yes.
data we are getting.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell one thing.
Mm.
Why? I mean, uh, when we would use bucketing and when we would use partition by.
Yeah, sure. So bucketing we normally do is like when the suppose there's a ID field, so the IDs will be distinct in nature. So in that case, like we use bucketing, so to like we can have like four buckets. So what we'll do, like if it's four buckets, then it will like have some hashing function, like
Moderator,
four bucket.
mod, yes, yes,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And
So as to
partition
move into buckets, like
by, yeah.
partitioning will be like in this case like ITCSCs are there, like these are repeating multiple times, so we can have CSC in one partition, IT in one partition. So
Hmm.
if the granularity of that is very low, like sorry, very high, like it's repeating multiple times, then we can have the data like states. For a particular state there will be multiple records
Uh,
inside that state, so that we can have a partition of state or a month, year, like that.
yes, 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 right. uh, okay, much. So hmm, do you know manage tables?
Yeah, managed tables are like the tables which are both data and the in Hive, right? Managed table in
Hmm,
Hive.
hmm, hmm.
So both the data and the like data and the metadata, both the things are managed by Hive in that case. So if we are trying to drop the table, then it will drop the data as well as the metadata of the data. So
And what about the external tables?
so external tables, it will like when we are trying to like the suppose we are using a file stored in S3, and we are trying to have a structure created on using Hive. So we can use external tables in this case. So when we are dropping the table, it will just drop the metadata of the table from the Hive metastore. It will not drop the, it will not delete the data that is there stored on
From the
S3.
external
So
storage, okay.
yeah,
So so basically, generally, by default, Hive doesn't have a acid property in the tables. So for an
yes, yes,
example,
it doesn't.
you have created a table which doesn't have a acid property, but after some times, okay, you have to make it uh, acid in nature, okay. Then what would
Mhm.
you do? Would you drop and create, or I mean, how would you proceed?
Okay, so we need to implement acid properties in Hive.
The table which is already present and having a large data.
Mhm.
First approach is simple.
So in
We
uh,
just can create a new table on top of
split,
that and copy the data. But
yeah, it will be very unoptimized, like right,
yeah, on
every time
optimize, yeah.
yeah. So in this case Hadoop like doesn't provide directly insert or something like that. So what we can do, like if we have to encounter deletes, then we can just suppose there's a timestamp of the values that are getting inserted, so we can append the value with the new timestamp and select the latest value, like that kind of a thing we can do, and mark the old value as some flag we can implement, like delete flag. So we can mark the old value as one, like deleted flag or something like that.
So
Like that we
you
can,
are saying SCDs, creating SCDs.
yeah, creating SCD, like SCD type 2, like slowly changing dimension kind of
Huh.
thing over there.
But as well as I'm also not sure, but I have read somewhere that we can change the property later. We can change the
Okay.
property later. You can also search it after this call. I have checked
Yes.
in LinkedIn. So
So in Hive also we can have deletes, updates, and all these things.
yeah, we have a property as we have to enable it, right? I hope so. We have to enable it.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll take on it.
Yeah, everything is fine, Deepak. You are good in your subjects or technologies. Sorry, I did not know that you mentioned AWS, and I also don't know
Okay.
much. If it is Azure, then I'll ask more question on Azure. So
Sure, sure.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I'll stop
Okay.
recording. Then we can discuss.
Sure. Yeah.